mention that
Recording in progress.
we are reaching you live from the studio of Wash 94.9 FM Lagos. Is a convergence of media platforms in addition to Zoom. We have offered choices for the program to reach many homes and more audiences. As we speak, the program is also being broadcast live on Sweet 107.1 FM, Abeokuta, and also Roots 97.1 FM, also in Abeokuta. For those around Ogun State, we are indeed very grateful to our media partners for this collaboration. Well, let me pass the baton to Dr. Ariyo. Ariyo, you are debuting today. Thank you very much.
I must thank you so much for considering me worthy of bearing a guru like you. So I take this as the honor.
I'm flattered. Yeah.
And as they say in Yoruba, mo mọ lóore. To our audience, my brother, in my local language. Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia. As of January 11, 2025, the population of Africa is put at 1.5 billion, and this is according to the United Nations estimates. This makes up 18.3% of the world's population. There is a projection that African population was nearly 1.4 billion people as of 2021. It accounts for about 18% of the world's human population, which reached close to 2.5 billion, which will reach close to by the year 2050. Of course, that will make up more than 25% of the world's population, with a land mass of about 30.3 million kilometers squared, including adjacent islands. Mother Africa covers 20% of Earth's land area and 6% of its total surface area. Owing largely to the landmass and demographic dividends, combined with the vast natural endowments, Africa is the continent to beat as the emerging economic and cultural superpower, if not now, but in the nearest future. Africa's future is that of opportunities and challenges having to do with climate change, infrastructure deficit, uncoordinated, ununified governance at the regional level, and most importantly, the black man's mentality. All these and many more are on the table of discourse for dissection by our erudite guest, Professor Toyin Falola. Let me now go to my brother, Dr. Ayo Arewujulu, to formally unveil the profile of our guests.
Thank you very much. You will notice that we have decided to cut some time so that we can, start to fire from all cylinders. Trust Professor Falola. He speaks truth to power. It's now time to unveil our guests, the man, Professor Toyin Falola. May I crave indulgence to abridge his highly intimidating profile for reasons of time consideration. If I am to reel out his official profile, time will not permit us. We will do it for like 1 hour. Prof, I hope I am permitted. Great.
Please, thank you.
Yes, sir. Professor Toyin Omoyemi Falola, born in Ibadan on January 1, 1953, is arguably the most decorated academic in Africa. He is an eminent historian whose contributions have been acknowledged through numerous awards in every continent of the globe, underscoring his impact on African American historiography and global scholarship. Professor Falola earned his BA and PhD in history from the University of Ife, Ile-Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, in 1981. His academic journey, however, has transcended national boundaries, taking him to the world's most esteemed institutions scattered in about 65 countries. Over the years, he has taught and conducted research at prestigious universities, including the University of Cambridge, in England, York University in Canada, Smith College in Massachusetts, and the University of Calgary, just to mention a few. Currently, Professor Falola holds the Jacob and Francis Sanga Musika Chair in the Humanities at the University of Texas in Austin, where he also serves as a university distinguished teaching professor. Professor Falola is one of the world's most widely and one of Africa's most distinguished voices. He has been bestowed with over 30 Lifetime Achievement Awards, 16 honorary doctorates, a Doctor of Letters D.Lit. Degree, and 3 chieftaincy titles, which includes the Bobak Baton of Ibadan. He is a mentor of mentors, a distinguished scholar, public intellectual, prolific author of over 200 books and articles, a devoted teacher, and a mystery of Africa, and above all, a paragon of human decency. Well, thank you very much. There you have it. I will go straight to invite the chair of the session, which is the Olowu of Owu Kingdom, Oba Professor Saka Matemilola, for his keynote speech. Kábíyèsí o. Can we have Kábíyèsí?
While we are waiting for KBC, it's only important that you and I should make a decision that when we, if it's not too late anyway,
I decide.
same here. Something is wrong.
Go.
Thank you very much for muting me. Can you all hear me now?
Apologies for that, Kábíyèsí. You are on now, loud and clear.
Thank you very much. So let me straight away welcome everyone to the first edition of Boiling Point Arena for 2025. Thank God for enabling us to cross over to this new year. I want to thank Professor Toyin Falola for joining us on this edition. We look forward to a very exciting expose from him. I also want to thank media partners for supporting us with their technology, with their facilities. And I want to also thank all the participants from all over the world who have remained very, very supportive and who have remained constant in their support and participation in this event. I look forward to a very robust discussion today. We couldn't have any better person to help analyze this situation, the topic of today, which is the social, economic, and political situation we have in Africa as a people, other than our eminent Professor Toyin Falola. So I don't want to take much time, but I just want to hand over back to the anchors, Dr. Ayo Arojolu, to help push the program forward. And I want to, wish everyone an enjoyable session today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kabesi. Well, without much ado, I am bringing Professor Toyin Falola to the arena of boiling point. I hope you are there, Paul. Okay, let me start this way. Professor Toyin Falola didn't just drop from the moon. He is proudly a Nigerian from a tiny dot, as former President Buhari would like to put it, even though there is no such description anywhere in the world. Can you let us into the totality of who Toyin Falola is? And then, in addition, your growing up years. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, they just click the unmute button there.
Sorry for that.
Thanks so much. Thank you for this opportunity. And let me start by thanking all of you, the various radio stations and the television stations, the streaming opportunities that this has provided. And let me thank the Olowu, who is a professor, a modernizer, was at Rutgers with Professor Obasanjo over a year ago, and many of you may not be aware that they are creating joint initiatives between American universities and opportunities in Abeokuta and the universities there. We wish him and President Obasanjo very well. And I'm sure he'll be delighted to learn that I'm currently finishing a book on Abeokuta, which some Egba chiefs commissioned me to do. And I want to also thank the moderators of this program. So, in the interest of time, let me suggest that I don't talk about myself, other than to say that I approach this topic, these issues, from the academic side because I write about them, from the policy side because I've participated in peacemaking, I've participated in feeding policymakers a wide range of issues on development. I've been part of several teams on international organizations looking at many of these issues. And the more difficult your questions, the more you get out of me. Thank you very much. You're having technical issues.
Of history, and what are some of the most significant research projects you have worked on, and what did you learn from them, sir?
Thank you. So I started in the 70s to study the 19th century, covering the area where you are now located, southwestern Nigeria, the Yoruba people. And as I began my career, very quickly I moved to the modern period. So I've covered a long range of issues, from the pre-colonial to what we call the colonial. Research on Yoruba people in the 19th century, research on colonial Nigeria, research on contemporary Africa. Today, I'm working on the African diaspora, working on development issues, democracy, peace and conflict, and things that will interest your audience. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Going further, sir, how do you approach the teaching of history? And what do you hope your students take away from your classes since inception, sir?
Thank you. So, two ways. The academic way, which I'm now criticizing, and I will appreciate questions along that direction. In that academic way, what we've done is to borrow the model from the Western universities. And in borrowing the model, we created what is called a Department of History. I'm now criticizing that model. And then we also borrowed the ideas of how history is written in the Western knowledge system. I am now also criticizing that model. In the Western model, we study the nation states, but African universities have provided a curricula that is richer than those in the West. So if you go, whether it's Ibadan, Ife, or Lagos, the way they structure the program insists that students must know Africa. That is the core. They must know Europe, the peripheral, they must know the US, and they must know Asia for development purposes. So a good student with a first degree in history is very well-rounded, actually covering almost 80% of the world within 4 years. And this is a credit we must give to African institutions, because elsewhere, you can have a BA in history and not do anything on Africa. Zero in their program. But why am I criticizing what I've just praised? Because it doesn't follow the Western conception of what we call Itan. It doesn't follow the conceptualization of what we call Aruba, because we have not fully integrated our own indigenous concept of what we call history in its holistic manner. Assuming we are the one who created this department, maybe we'll have created a BA in kingship studies. Maybe we'll have created a first degree in divination studies, because we already have all of them well established. You can run a program on Nigerian monarchs and monarchies to have a degree. And recently I created a new field, African ancestral studies, that we have the depth and breadth of knowledge very, very extensive in medicine, in technology, in mythologies, in epistemologies. and we must cumulate them. Either we integrate them with the existing structure in the universities, or we create new departments that will focus on our own legacies, inheritances, and traditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. I'm sure the people at home, all over the world, are enjoying you. I'll take the next question again, sir. History plays a very vital role in human and society development. Some of these include lessons that people get to learn. Now, you've explained to us that the concept in which our history was written made use of the Western archetype. History also made us to understand that the consequences of past actions, decisions, and events, they enable us to learn from mistakes and successes. This being so, sir, and with your new thinking, how do you think Africa can key in into this and be able to learn from our past mistakes and successes, especially in the area of leadership? Thank you, sir.
Well, the issue of leadership is very important because it lays out the framework of governance. It policies the institutions of development. It collects and allocates resources. I don't know whether you are hearing me because you're having technical challenges.
Please go ahead, sir.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Please, okay. Because my lips are not moving.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you. So, but the challenge is not today is not just to talk about leadership. We also have to talk about followership. We spend more time talking about leadership, all the advices, but we do not talk about the problems of followership. Facilitate corruption, also share and encourage politicians in terms of pressuring them for this and that and money. Also, unethical things that they also do. So we have a two-pronged challenge. But remember that what you call leadership operates within the framework of the post-colonial society. When we were conquered, they took away power from the chiefs and kings between 1885 and 1900, 15 years. Many empires were destroyed. Many places lost their sovereignty. So after 1945 that they were preparing to leave, you would think that they will return the power to those from whom they collected it. No, that is not what they did. They did not return the power to those from whom they seized it. They returned the power to a new group of people they created. Sometimes we call those the Western educated elite to simplify things. And very quickly, things unraveled, as in the case of Nigeria. The First Republic fell very quickly and the military took over. So at the point where we are now, in which the system is called democracy, you will find out that that democracy is compromised. There's democratic recession. The democratic institutions are not delivering development. So some of us are now saying, why don't you take ideas from the past? No, you are not going to repeat the past. It's not possible. But you can take enduring ideas from the past and use it to reform this democracy so that it can work. You can take ideas from the past and use it to reform the concept of followership, which can work. I don't want us to lose that moment whereby what the ideas from the past that we can use are ignored and the moment is lost. We still can do that. And in doing that, we must permanently remember that the lessons of history are very clear. If you don't govern well, you are laying the foundation for crisis. If you don't balance ethnic relations, if you don't balance people's relations, you are laying conditions for conflict and civil war. That's what the past taught us. If you build on fairness, if you do not promote egalitarianism, you are laying conditions for a revolution. So as you said, what can we learn from the past? We learn from the past that if you do not manage people and resources, you may end up with crisis, with domination, with conflicts, and with civil war. Thank you.
Much bigger elephant. If we go back to history, the colonialists, when they came, they took power from the traditional rulers. They were the ones administering the people and their resources. By the time they took total control, they started seeing the traditional rulers as enemies that must be put down. In the process, one of their organs of administration, Royal Niger Company, established the Nigerian Police Force in Calabar with the sole aim of making the people to toe the lines of the dictates of the colonialists. From there, they formed political parties who also, when they came to power, started seeing the regional rulers as enemies that must be contained. And of course, in the case of Nigeria specifically, at a time, the military took over power. When they came in, they went around visiting the regional rulers, expressing their loyalty. But what happened? The military also started suppressing and oppressing. And today, that we even have what we call civil rule or democracy, no place of honor and dignity that they deserve is still being given to our traditional rulers. Sir, this being so, and in the face of all your explanations, especially the area of Western educated elites, who I call the power in. So how do we begin to correct all of this? Because the crisis to talk about is present here. We have failed to balance ethnic and ethnic relationships, and of course, unfairness and partiality has been very dominant in our civil administration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So if you look, one of the things we overlook in discussing this issue is community empowerment. It's not just about kings and chiefs. It is about how we now manage our communities. I tell people, and sometimes they're surprised, that in the 1950s, the entire city of Ibadan was very clean. In fact, whether it's Abeokuta or Ijebu, you are not likely to find a dirty city the way we have it today. Because we wake up, you will sweep the frontage of your house, you have a store, you will collect all the rubbish. Today, in the markets, in the neighborhood, they will say they are waiting for the local government to come and pick their garbage. If you look at the schools that many of you attended, like Lucy College, Aishola, all of them, they were established by communities. It was a community that established Lucy College in Ijebu. Those were community empowerment. And it was a community that was police, neighborhoods and compounds, so that you are not going to have kidnappers among you because they know one another. You are not going to have people addicted to drugs. You knew one another. Not only have we damaged that kinship, but we have also damaged community. One thing brings back is reorganize those communities and empowering those. The second, your question. I think I'm having technical difficulties with your system. I hope you are hearing me.
Ah,
You
we
can
are
send me.
We are with you, sir.
We're hearing
We are with you,
Very
sir.
good.
We're hearing
We are with you, sir.
So there is so much.
Sir.
There's so many echoes. Also linked to your question is the idea of the people you now call poor people. Many of us here listening to me, your parents were not rich. Some mothers were market women, some selling tubers of yam and plantain. The fathers were not rich either. But why are you successful? You are successful not because your parents had money. You are successful not because your parents had money, or they had values. They had values. So as we form the institution of things, we also have to the idea of the poor. And one suggestion I'm making this afternoon is the recapitalization of poor people, so that the person selling pepper soup will be able to send his children to school. The farmer will be able to send his children to school. You may have heard about the Bolaji Aluko family, Sam Aluko family. You must have heard about them. The father of Sam Aluko, the economist, politician, minister, what's a farmer. He sent Sam Aluko to school. Sam Aluko produced children. One of friend, Bolaji, who was vice commissioner and vice chancellor. So from that farm, Aluko has produced generation successful people. Today, a farmer will find it difficult to do that. Point number 3, relating to your question about institutions of the past. How do we bring out the values that work for us? What are these values? How many police did you find in cities and villages, even up until today? Where were the police in the 19th century? How many police did you have in Ibadan in 1930? There are still many villages today and small towns with very small number of police. We are being guided by our values. And there were two fundamental values that we used in the past, which we must bring back: shame and guilt. Shame and guilt. Guilt is you did something and the other said, you're guilty, and they imposed their punishment on you. So if you study about in the 19th century, there were cases in which they banished even some of their prominent chiefs. They banished one on to Abeokuta, to Ijebu people. And then shame. Shame means you are not caught, but are troubled by your conscience. All those are gone. So today, if you steal money and you call a party in Abeokuta or Ibadan, even when people know that you've stolen the money, they will come in large numbers to enjoy that stolen money as they drink their beer and ask for more food. Those are serious challenges we have relating to the questions you posed about the degradation of chieftaincy and kingship. But the context is much bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. Thank you very much.
Very much, Professor. We apologize for the slight glitches. Let me say that you must have gone to the United States or even gone around the world as at like 40, 50 years ago. I want to ask how you are able to navigate your way to overcome that kind of complex that Africans are known with. For example, somebody once said, our misfortune as Africans is not in our stars, but in ourselves. And I will background it a little bit. I established a radio station for a university. We bought our equipment from Glasgow. So after shipping the equipment, the Oyibo man who was talking with me, I wanted to know, who are you sending to come and couple these things together? He just told me, he said, Ayo, I know what you are thinking. We are sending a Nigerian, an Igbo man, but his brain is a white brain. And that puzzled me. Is there a difference? Is there any white brain or a dark brain or black brain anywhere? I know that Prof is an emissary of Africa. You have very lofty dream concerning Africa, but there are some things that are wrong with us as a people. How are you able to navigate your way? How are you able to, solve some problems having to do with complexes over there? Thank you, sir.
So, if you break down the development index or indices, if you break it down into upbringing, education, opportunities, there is nothing wrong with Africa, nothing wrong. Actually, the students in the university where you teach are far more serious and more disciplined than the students that most Japa people teach in UK and in the US. And we may complain about education as much as we want, but the evidence is very clear that that where the institutions have resources, their products are very good. So on a Monday, they will say UCH is not doing well, Unilag is not doing well. On Tuesday, they will go there to go and recruit medical doctors. So nothing is wrong with our intelligence. And each time somebody says something is wrong with our intelligence, we must always fight back. If there were resources, people in Abeokuta, your university will win the Nobel Prize in chemistry and Greek. Our friends and professors at UI Economics Department will win the Nobel Prize. The current winners of the Nobel Prize, Why Nations Fail. I read the book twice. There's nothing, the substantive chapters is said there. Onimode was saying it years ago, and Klodake was saying it years ago. So nothing is wrong with our brain. And even where students are not benefiting from rich resources, the moment they go elsewhere, whether they go to UK or China or Japan or the US, and they have the benefits of those resources, within months, they begin to do extremely very well. Extremely very well. So let us clear that out of the way. Second, the notion of inferiority complex. People have been writing about it. Will multiplying challenge us in the 19th century. Job challenge us. Then God challenge us. Based on the line you use, the black color, the white mind. That inferiority complex. We created it ourselves, and we must. You find it in Christianity, find it in Islam, you find it in technology, you even find it in food. That today people are eating noodles, they don't want to eat eko and moi again. They want to eat pizza. So we have to correct it at the level of the family that will promote our languages and food, at the level of the states that will create an educational system that will build pride, and at the level of the collective, seeing the black race the way Nkrumah saw it, seeing the black race the way Lumumba saw it, seeing the black race the way Azikiwe saw it, seeing the black race the way Du Bois saw it. And we have to emphasize our positive. Africa will never impose imperial order on other races. We have our religions, our deities. We never force anyone to convert. We have been enslaved. We are not angry. We are not saying let's revenge and kill those who enforce us. So we have positive values, so many of them. And these positive values, we have to work them into the school system. I just completed a book, Africans' Contributions to the World. We don't talk about our contribution to civilization, to technology, to sciences, to development. And without our slave labor, what we call Western capitalism would not have developed. So you and I have a lot of work to do, creating this knowledge, making sure that this knowledge reaches the school system so that we can elevate ourselves, rebrand ourselves, and claim our position and dignity in the global world. Thank you.
When you look at the issue of leadership in Nigeria, although you prefer talking first about the followership, if we are going to rejig our economy, because the Oyibo man who told me that person has a white brain, he had a job specification to do within 3 days. The man finished it within 2 days. When Nigerian leaders go abroad to shop for investors, Nigerians hold the short end of the stick. It's either they bring back a technology that is close to expiring. I remember Oluwa Glass in Igbokoda, the kind of technology that was brought that is consuming 1 tanker of black oil per day, 1 tanker of diesel per day, and it must not fail. That's not a kind of technology that is going to work for us. When they do race system or they do steel, the kind of components they go and bring, this brings us to corruption. The issue of the mentality, I'm talking about our leaders, that it doesn't show that they love the people, because after they have left, you don't see anything for us. That's what I am trying to find out, Prof.
No, but I understand, but so there's a Yoruba proverb. If you are foolish, the wise people will continue to dominate and exploit you. And with the example you have given, how can you go and shop for technology without the knowledge of that technology? So you are shortchanging yourself. And you've seen cases in the Second Republic, people buying used buses and repainting them. So technology is always on the move. So today, 2025, we have no more business buying basic technologies, given the number of universities. And one of my arguments is that we must pay attention to the trade centers that we had in the past. High-end technologies, yes. But many basic technology that people use on a daily basis are low-end one. We have no business purchasing them anymore. We should be able to make basic technology that we need for production, for agriculture, and things like that. These are not rocket science technology we're looking for. We're not talking about developing a nuclear power. We're just talking about daily lives and how these technologies will improve on us. And as you are developing that point, you brought up the issue of corruption. Yes. You remember when those planes were crashing in Nigeria? They were buying discarded planes because people were sidetracking regulations. So many of these things, given the level of education, need not happen. But I understand that when you make that mistake because you lack the knowledge, because of corruption, great consequences will follow. And some of these consequences cost lives. Buildings may collapse, fire outbreak, road accidents, preventable death. So leadership, corruption, knowledge, they are linked. If you don't know about laboratory chemicals, who is sending you to Singapore to go and buy them? And after you get to Singapore, what is it that you told the manufacturers in terms of the cut you want to collect? So it's a very good question, raising the issue of values, the commitment of those who govern us, and the ability to put the knowledge produced in their universities to use. And is there a development on the agenda? Years ago, Claudacre said the African state is not meant for development. That development was not on the agenda. And if you look at politics in various African countries, you can say that this politics is not about transformation. It is about sharing money. There is only one political party in many African states, Tif Party. They may give themselves various names, but they're basically focused on sharing. And I'm sure you know that we have longest serving African presidents, former president of Equatorial Guinea, 45 years. If you are from Cameroon, your president is 91 years old. He can't talk. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's been governing you for 42 years. Is that the one who will manage your technology for you? Museveni has been there for 39 years. Nguesso, over 40 years. President of Eritrea, 31 years. So how can you have presidents in their 80s govern the majority of the population in their 30s? So there's that disconnect. There, you may have some leaders, they don't know how to operate email. They don't know how to start a computer. And they are governing younger people. That's a big disconnect there. So it is not something we have to take very lightly when we insist that power sharing must now concentrate on younger people and women just for us to attain our transformation. We have to face out a generation of leaders. I know that the youth, the young men and women too, have their problems. Some of them are also waiting for their turn, which is very unfortunate. Some of them are area boys, it's very unfortunate. But that does not mean the president of your country should be a 91-year-old man. Thank you.
Dr. Aria has a follow-up question. 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 Dr. Aria has. So, after all, Professor Falola is a 72-year-old man. We should allow you to at least take a glass of water. We'll just reset for 1 minute and we come back. But, Prof, let me ask you, what would be your prescription for the Nigerian president of your dream in terms of age?
Well, given the way the world is moving, we cannot have a president who does not understand global economy. We cannot have a president who does not understand technology, the fourth industrial revolution. We no longer can have a president will not understand their intelligence. But more than that, we have to know that in the years ahead, 1 in 3 of young people are going to be Africans. A country like Nigeria will soon become 400 million people in the next 30 years. So it's going to be a combination of intelligence, of knowledge, passion, and commitment to development. Without all those variables, we are going to be in trouble. Thank you. I don't need a rest, but if you want to manage your technology, I'm fine.
Do 1 minute and also pay some bills. Just 1 minute. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's have the 1 minute.
Exciting news from Galilee University College, Nigeria, your gateway to global opportunities. In partnership with the Global Counterterrorism Institute, we're proud to collaborate with the prestigious Paris Graduate School to bring you exclusive master's, diploma, and certificate programs. Earn a degree that paves the way to master's and PhD programs in Paris, a city known for its academic excellence and vibrant culture. Here's why this opportunity is unmatched. World-class education. Learn from top educators and industry leaders in international security and advanced security studies in intelligence cybersecurity, with hands-on projects in the GCTI state-of-the-art cyber lab. Global networking. Build lasting connections with professionals from around the world. Pathway to success. Seamlessly transition into advanced degrees. Cultural experience. Learn alongside a diverse global student base. Take the next step in your education and career. Visit Galilee University College for more information and to start your journey today.
Hey, thank you so much. We are back. Professor Toyin Falola is still in the arena of boiling fire. So to say, let's go over to Dr. Aria.
Prof, I want to thank you very deeply for the enlightenment of an uncommon kind that we are benefiting from today. You've taken the issue of administration in Africa away from leadership to the followership. And I'm going to say this, on the street in Tokyo one day, I wanted to buy a shirt. The man knew that my arm is longer than the average Japanese. And the shirt I picked wasn't designed for long arm personnel. So he asked me to sit down and he called somebody somewhere. And in minutes, they brought the appropriate shirt for me at the same price. And I remember Oshodi way back, where they will be selling a dress that will not fit you, and they will be telling you it's your size, which for me is corruption. Coming to the present, the current Ghanaian president, newly sworn in, while giving his presidential speech, laid emphasis on corruption. It is no news to say that our country, Nigeria, is the grandfather of corruption. What this is saying is that if we do not tackle or kill corruption, Africa may be killed by corruption. Hello, sir.
I'm here.
My last question, sir. I should repeat myself. Hello, sir.
I'm here.
Okay. Should I repeat my last question, sir?
The thing went off.
Okay.
The system
Let me
went
take it
off.
again.
It's just back.
Okay. A couple of years back, on a street in Tokyo, in Japan, I was going
I
to.
had that one. I had it. I
And when
heard
got
that.
to the shop, the attendant told me that the shirt that I picked wasn't designed for long arm human being like me. That is for the locals who are shorter armed. So he asked me to wait and call somebody somewhere who immediately brought the appropriate size for me. And I remember way back in Oshodi, if you wanted a particular dress and it doesn't fit you, the sellers have a way of manipulating and stretching that dress to suit you. Which when you get to, it will be obvious that you have been shortchanged. I like the way you took the issue of management away from leadership and back to the followership. But I know that if we have leaders who lead well, followership will definitely follow well. While speaking during his inauguration, the current president of Ghana emphasized the need to tackle corruption. It is not a new thing that Nigeria is the grandfather of corruption on different phases. All of these together, sir, with your experience, your exposure, and of course, all that you have seen in the course of growing both in age and academically and in research, what would be your recommendation whereby Africa can overcome or at least reduce the case of corruption to the barest minimum? Thank you, sir.
So, and I will broaden it. Corruption will slow down development, and you are misusing your resources. The money that is meant for development, you are diverting it to public pockets. You cannot reduce it to zero. You can't reduce it to zero. But you can manage its damages. There's a concept of absorptive capacity. Absorptive capacity is how much money can you lose that will not destroy you. For instance, what you call 100 naira or what you call 1,000 naira is not the same in terms of its absorptive capacity. If you interview me, if you were to lose 1,000 naira, maybe you won't worry about it. But the person selling pure water is going to worry about it because of what we call absorptive capacity. Second, where do you keep stolen money? If you use that stolen money to create industries and empower people, you are doing what the state itself is supposed to do. So the damages will be less. So you steal money in the US, you spend it in the US, you use it to open a business. That is exactly what the government does. Many people may not know that what you call the green card, that people struggle to have. The law is very clear. If you can open a business that hire 10 people, you are qualified for green card. In other words, you are using your money to do what the state would do. But if you steal money, you put them in Ghana must go, because the bag is big, you convert it to dollar to make the bag smaller. You move the money to London or New York, you are damaging your country. Serious damage to the country. So can the country absorb it? Where are you remitting the money? And it's very unfortunate that they are remitting stolen money to where they are developing other countries. Because if you put the money in a foreign bank, the money is not dormant. It's being used to transform that country. And there's a gentleman on this, who is watching, the professor from UI, Tayo Additional, we were talking about this topic yesterday. And I said, we are in an age of greed. Many countries pass through this age of greed in which their politicians want to steal money. But it's not going to go on forever. When is it going to stop? And what are the forces that will stop it? Are we going to reach the bottom? Are we going to stop it through revolution? Will the politicians reform themselves? But this age of greed is still here with us. It's a baptism that we have to pass through. And you have been using the concept of fire and boiling. We are being roasted. You are in soup. But when will it stop? When will this age of greed stop? So that we begin to use our resources to develop our people. But there are bigger problems, with due respect. There are bigger problems. And let me take a moment to talk about these bigger problems. Because as bad as corruption is, we must talk about some other bigger issues. Do you know, and I'm glad you invited me, that illicit transfer of money every year is 88 billion US dollars. 3.7% of the continent's GDP is removed from the continent every year. There was a panel set up by Mbeki to calculate this loss. They call them the IFF. And I've been following them. I'm also part of the conversation. Trade misinvoicing, the loss of natural resources, tax evasion by foreign companies, collusion with our officials. They amount to 88 billion every year that leaves Africa. That is a big issue. Huge, with devastating impact. There is a capitalist domination that makes that illicit financial flow possible. The amount of money that they steal from us is far more than the amount of money that Africans steal from their own revenues. So we have to locate this corruption in the domestic arena and in the global arena. You know how much gold is being stolen from Ghana? How much gold is being stolen from Nigeria, Safara and other places? Central Africa, the region between Central Africa and South Africa is one of the richest in the world. Where is the diamond? Where is the gold? Stolen. Then we have to talk about the bigger issue of the expanding number of poor people. Take Amejiri, for instance. To put them into school, we calculated it will require spending the entire annual revenue of Nigeria for 5 years. That is if we don't produce more Amejiri. That's a very big issue. We continue to increase the number of poor people. What nations try to do, as in the case of China, is that you will say every year you will take a percentage out of poverty. Maybe 10 million people. But we are not taking that number out of poverty we're increasing the number of poor people. That is a big issue. We are facing democratic recessions. Our people are losing confidence in this democracy. They are losing confidence. You and I know that our people are losing democracy. How many people vote in elections? What is the number that produce the government of states? And when they vote, they will say, give us the money. And because democracy doesn't deliver, because there is a loss of faith in democracy, it accentuates the problem of corruption that you are talking about. It reduces the number of people who can fight for justice, who can fight against corruption. And what does it do? It's promoting coups. Mali, 2020, 2021, coup. Chad, 2021. Guinea, 2021. Sudan, 2021. Burkina Faso, 2022. Niger, 2023. Gabon, 2023. There will be one this year or next year. Because if democracy doesn't deliver, you will destabilize the system. You're going to destabilize it. And we must work very seriously that we should not allow the majority of our people to be disillusioned, to lose interest in democracy. Many months ago, President Tinubu of Nigeria was appealing to church leaders, don't curse your country. People curse Nigeria. He was saying, why don't you pray for your country? Over 60% of Africans under the age of 30 want to check out. They don't want to live in Africa anymore. That is a far more serious problem. Why are you going to have as high as 60% who will say they don't want to live in their own continent? So I appreciate the focus on corruption, but let us add bigger issues, serious issues, and let us throw in Francophone Africa, the Sahel. When the president of Mali attended the inauguration of the new president of Ghana, he received the loudest ovation. The young boy received the loudest ovation. Why? Because they are doing the second liberation. They are continuing the struggles for decolonization. They are saying, French army, leave. Mali has gold. It has no gold reserve. France has gold reserves. It has no gold. You see all these big problems that we should talk about, as well as asking me questions on a wide range of these other issues. Thank you.
I think Baruyin Femi Shodunke from Canada must have been reading your lips very well, or your mind. He said, Prof, what we have in most of Africa is civilian rule and not democracy. And he's asking that, as a great Yoruba, Nigerian, and African patriot, do you think it's time for African traditional rulers to participate in democratic process? And also, can you please assess President Bola Tinubu's administration with sincerity? How do you see the ethnic agitations in Nigeria? Let me just, I think it's a three-barrel. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, to start from the last, you can see people are using the concept of T-pain to characterize this regime. Some with justification of the high prices of commodities. Anytime you increase transportation costs, the prices of everything will increase. And it's being also criticized because of the dollar-naira exchange rate. Those who are defending him will say, give him time. And those who are bearing the pain will say they're suffering. I think it is becoming urgent that President Tinubu of Nigeria must do everything to reduce the pain. I think there is a consensus on this. Even if you were to see him and you tell him the same, he's not going to argue with you. He may tell you the reasons why there is pain, but he's not going to argue with you. The question by Barrow on the limits of democracy, what he calls civilian rule or civilian coup, is very valid. Because if power is just about sharing resources, if it is not about using revenues to develop people, to what extent can you say the democratic dividends are spreading? So he has a point there that the number one business in town is politics. It's the most profitable business in town. You award a road contract, 100 million. Somebody sits in his office, makes a profit of 40 million, collecting the money from contractor. The contractor has 60 million left. He will ignore the specifications. He will not use the right materials because he wants to make his own profit. The profit that whoever gave him the contract has collected more money than the entrepreneur. So you ask him to tie a road, he will tie it, and he will just paint it so that in the next rain season, the road is gone. And if you say, go and buy medicine, you can put chalk in capsule. You can go to the pharmacy. The cover is good, it's not the right medicine. So back to the moderators, the host question, how that corruption will damage everything. Can we reform this democracy? Yes, but it's going to involve what those in power do not like. And they must be careful not to push citizens to revolutionary options. They must be careful not to push citizens to violence. There are some African countries today, as in the case of Cameroon, if there is a coup, people will flood to the streets and clap. We want to prevent situations like that. They are preventable to the extent that you govern well, manage resources, govern with sincerity and passion. So I appreciate the set of questions. Thank you very much.
After a study of Yoruba language and the note from UN that the language was going into attrition, which means it was dying. And it was in the class of languages that he said, if nothing is done, in 100 years' time, it might go out of existence. So I established the Center for Yoruba Language Revival and Revitalization, Ibùdó Ìgbédìde àti Ìfúnlókun Èdè Yorùbá. Sir, embedded in our language is our culture, our values, our tradition, knowledge about flora and fauna, respect to elders, our fashion, our cuisine, and everything about us. Our language is our essence. This battle is still on. Nothing concrete is being done to stem the tide. As an erudite scholar of African history, what can you say will be the way forward in restoring the glory of African languages? Thank you, sir.
Well, so let's break it down. The belief that a language like the Yoruba cannot be used from primary school to the university level is not a serious argument. It's not a serious argument. The Dutch went to South Africa with the British and others, and there they established the Afrikaner language. You must have heard about the Soweto crisis in which people lost their lives. Part of what triggered it is their insistence that Black people should be using Afrikaner. Afrikaner language does not have the number of Yoruba people, but it's used from elementary to the university level. They even created one of the best universities in Africa, Stellenbosch, where they were using Afrikaner to teach. Now things have changed after 1994. Israel, 7 million people, Hebrew language. And you have small countries, Finland, Sweden, small countries. Population of Oyo State using their languages from elementary school to the university. So Yoruba language can be used in education level from primary to the university level. I was the first speaker when they established Sokoto State University. Nuhu Yakub, who died this month, invited me, and I said, I wrote a paper called the Sokoto Manifesto. And one of the things I said is immediately use Hausa to teach. When we say that, we are not saying don't use English, because people misrepresent those ideas. If I say use Yoruba, I'm not saying they should not learn French or English. This argument has been there for a long time. Fafunwa, Isia Folayan, they even established pilot programs at Ife. It's been proposed, and I proposed it recently in Ghana. Why can't people use Yoruba to write their PhD thesis, or Akan or Hausa? You just insist that the abstracts and statement can be translated. At Ife, Akinwumi Shola, the successful playwright of blessed memory, refused to give his inaugural lecture, insisting that it must be in Yoruba language. But the university did not have a regulation for it. So that's one element that is doable, is possible. The other element is the package of Isheshe, which includes language. I know there are Pentecostalists among us, Christians among us, Muslims among us. Part of our work will be to appeal to them that they shouldn't confuse things like language and culture with religion. They are confusing them. Asha, Esi, they are confusing them. And they are creating problems for us. When you change your name from Ogun Toyinbo to Jesu Toyinbo, you are creating problems for us. You are taking that tradition and dismissing it. When you say you can be a Muslim, you can be a Christian, but you don't want to allow other people to practice their own religion, you are creating a problem for us. When you say you want to teach your children in English only, you are creating problems for us. But look at it this way. Would there be no longer artists if Achebe did not understand Igbo language? It's not possible. Ushoyinka have won the Nobel if he does not understand Yoruba Orisha. It's not possible. Part of the platform of his being a genius was on Yoruba mythologies and Yoruba Ogun and other gods and goddesses. So we now have a situation. You are not using Yoruba, but it doesn't mean the English is good. And it doesn't mean that your English has inflections that you can take from your language. There is no one English, there are Englishes. And you can't say because of globalization, you will lose your own language. In that globalization, if you are just taking from others, you take their food, you take their language, you take their dress, you take their music. That's not globalization, that's cultural domination. They don't dress like you. They don't eat your food. They don't use your language. Where is globalization? It's not globalization. It's cultural domination. And I'm very grateful to a new generation of Nigerian men and women who are turning the table around. As in Afrobeats, which has gone global, infusing the little languages in English and Yoruba and Pidgin they know to create global music. I'm very grateful to our designers who are bringing Adire Ashoke back, creating new colors, Asaro brown, Abeokuta green, Ibadan roof yellow, and things like that. Imaginative combinations. Designing a cap like the one I'm wearing. I'm very grateful to them in terms of how they are doing this culture. And I'm very grateful to Nollywood bringing this language back. It has areas that you and I may not like, but it has many areas that you and I like that is empowering our language. So don't be disillusioned. Continue with your campaign in terms of appealing to parents, in terms of digitization, in terms of the application of technology, and in terms of using modern technology for language preservation. You are doing a good job and you will need support. Thank you.
It's the time because we're looking at just about 20 minutes now, and we need to go open the floor for interactions. But let me ask you this, Prof. When we look at the big powers, I'm talking about Russia, talking about America, UK, China, it seems there is something they need, that they are prying their eyes into in terms of African resources. When you talk about regional integration, for example, somebody says if regional integration is the key to economic development and advancement in Africa, why are we unable to create and nurture proper economic unions? This is from Alex Abayomi Alao from Ibadan. But this is what I'm saying. The president, there are some kind of disquiet that the president is hobnobbing with France. And we know what France has done to some of our neighbors. We also see that if we are talking about regional, integration, Nigeria will close its borders wantonly, close borders against Niger, close borders against Benin Republic. We are now still talking about regional integration. And if you say this is the key to Africa's future, is that not a disconnect somewhere there, sir?
Thank you. You know, the idea has been with us since the 19th century. The idea has been with us. And I will give you just one example. The entire budget of Ghana as a country is far, far less than that of the city of Beijing in China. How can Ghana negotiate with China? It cannot. It has to negotiate within ECOWAS and within EU. All these countries have to come together and do the negotiation. Because Ghana on its own cannot do that negotiation. Second example, why would over 50 countries have multiple embassies? Is that not a waste of money? So you go to London. I've been to London, I've been to Ghana embassy one time when you still needed visa to go and apply for visa. So you go to London, Kenya embassy, Nigeria embassy, and they can have one embassy with efficiency to do the same thing. Are we not wasting money? There's a euro that you can put in your pocket and spend in many European countries. We wanted to have a West African currency. They agreed. France undermined it immediately. So many examples you can come up with. Why can't Benue State develop, agree, and supply food across West Africa? And our ancestors, Du Bois, Nkrumah, they saw all this and advocated continentalism. Is an idea that we have to ignore at our own peril, because we're just opening ourselves up for exploitation. I understand the complications on internal movements if you can't create jobs. Kenya now says you don't need a visa to enter the country. One of the earliest statements that the president of Ghana made is you can come to his country. We have to develop continentalism and regionalism and make them work. Because it involves pulling population for bigger markets, pulling intellectual resources for creativity, integrating medical facilities, developing cancer centers across West Africa that will run efficiently. is the regionalism is an idea that you can't question it in theory, but you can say in practice, why is it not working very well? But it is inevitable. What do you want Gambia to do? It's so small. What do you want all the African islands to do? They're so small. So if Nigeria manages its leadership, transforms itself, becoming a regional power, Nigeria will benefit, and all the West African countries will also benefit. But integration of our people has been extremely successful for a long time. Go to Gambia, Igbo communities, Yoruba communities. The Oba of Yoruba in Gambia is an Ibadan man. I know him. Go to Abidjan. You are going to find many Ijigbo and Ogbomoso people there. They have a school. Makola, the main market in Ghana, was created by Yoruba people. Every day, by road, if you go to Yaba, you see, or my two, First Tag, you're going to see hundreds of people traveling on the road to Cotonou, to Sumet, to Accra. So our people are doing that integration. And they are doing it in larger numbers. The old routes, Mali through the savannah, has been revived. Sokoto to Niamey. It's a lot of traffic. It is shorter than Sokoto to Lagos. The Sahel, the River Niger, they are using them. So we need to empower our people to continue this integration. And the state has to do more to empower the people and provide regulations to make it work. So you have people who have PhDs in Nigeria have no jobs. Why can't they go to Gambia, go to Cameroon, where there's a shortage of PhDs, and work there? So we have to create that enabling environment. And as we create those enabling environments, we will reduce more people going to the West. Because we don't talk about migration within Africa. And we're encouraging Pan-African migrations to empower our people, instead of saying they're just going to Germany or going to Sweden. They can go to African countries and get productive jobs in societies that will welcome them and not be xenophobic, the kind of thing that we're witnessing in South Africa today. Thank you.
A detailed one. Well, I crave your indulgence to let's go to the floor. For those who will call to the studio number to call is 090-6099-2609. I take it again, 090-6099-2609. But I can cite Professor Olushola Oyewale's hand raised up, and I think you should have the floor. Can you unmute Professor Olushola Oyewale? Let's see others who have also raised their hand.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Toyin Falola. It's been interesting listening to you this evening or this afternoon over there. I know that you know me. I'm the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities in Accra, Ghana. Please, our universities in Africa are still divided on colonial lines. We have found that Africa needs regional integration of our educational system. Please, what strategies will you advise us to adopt? Secondly, about Nigeria, Nigerian professors are poorly paid and poorly motivated. The curricula in Nigeria still needs to be decolonized. Infrastructures need to be modernized. Please, what can we do in Nigeria to make our universities to be on the driver's seat of Nigeria's development? Thank you.
Well, you know this better than me as a distinguished administrator. You've managed a university before. Last December, you participated in the Ghana Academy on higher education. And the last time I saw you was in Addis Ababa, talking about the challenges of higher education. So we are blessed that a man of your distinguished
sorry. Okay, put it up. Put him on. Hello.
Can join this this conversation. For those of you who do not know him, he's one of the most distinguished African educator and administrator. He's asking me questions and he knows the answer. But I think what he's trying to do is to generate an audience conversation on an important topic. During this week, our colleagues in Burundi, they said their universities may collapse for some of the reasons that Professor Iwole has mentioned. Poor salaries, poor pay. The agenda originally, as Aswa has explained, is to see how private universities may be the center, but that has not worked out. But the system will continue to lose people, especially in the areas of health, pharmacy, medicine, where there are competing demands elsewhere. Because, and even if they don't leave, if morale is low, what would be the quality of the work? Because people have to be happy to do good work. So the system is sabotaging itself. The point about integration, the Vice Chancellor of Olabisi Onabanjo University in October is a medical person, went to Ghana over this issue, and they want to pool resources. And I've told African universities, you worry too much about memorandum of agreement between you and the Western institution. But we need to develop other networks, memorandum of agreement between African universities. We are not doing that enough. Memorandum of agreement between private universities and public universities. We are not doing that enough. And this is an area where we have to move to. And we have to do more than what we are doing now in terms of benefiting from the diaspora. I always get into trouble when I mention revolutionary options. When Bruce Lee was with me in Addis Ababa, I suggested we should be collecting diaspora taxation. Everybody was very angry. And the way I put the argument is this: I went to Ife. I was trained from elementary school to PhD. People were trained. When you leave your country and you are coming back, what do you hold the country? Until 5 years ago, you paid $3,000 to re-enter the Chinese market if you go abroad. So, but people will answer. People will say, but you are too corrupt to collect $5 education fee from Falola each time he enters Lagos. Now, okay, we train you. What then do you owe us? So you go to College of Medicine, UI, 2 years later, you leave. So the federal government, the state government, they've lost a lot of money on you. So there's what we call the paradox of development. The money we are using on education, suppose you use it on cocoa farmers and food planters, and you solve your food supply. But if you are using it on education, which is very good, but you are not expecting that that investment will be lost if people do not contribute in terms of service. Some economists will argue that you've wasted your money. And how do you get the money back? So we have all these difficult challenges. And I understand part of the pain that is driving Professor Iwole's question. Someone who saw the system over a long period of time. Because if you saw the system in the 60s, and you now see the system now, you will be in tremendous pain. And many of us are in that pain. Thanks for the questions. And this is a conversation we can hold at some other time, devoted solely to solving this problem. Thank you, sir. Mr. Awolowo, thanks you for the excellence. Thanks for joining the program. Hopefully, yes.
Thank you very much. Please. Can we, I can see Adegbenro Adebanjo's hand, but can we just be a little bit patient? My time that I signed with them in the studio is 8 o'clock, and we have just about 3 minutes. Can we crave your indulgence, Professor Falola, to have you for maybe 10 minutes after we leave the terrestrial?
No, I can be here for another 3 hours. I'm not tired, but yes. I know you have studio time that you have to keep to. Yes. Please don't plead to me. Don't plead to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
This is civic responsibility.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bring up Kabiyesi, the Olowo of Owu, Oba Matemilola. He opened up the session. He should close it. Then we come back for more questions. And I want to thank you very much. Kabiyesi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okay, thank you for helping with technology there as well. So I must also thank Professor Toyin Falola for a very wonderful work. He has done the very deep analysis, very balanced analysis, without being critical of any institution, of any grouping whatsoever, and contextualizing all of his explanation on the culture, African culture, and the erosion of our values and where it has led us to. I truly thank you for that. I also want to thank him for being so patient and even volunteering to continue after our time with the radio station has expired. I know there are a number of questions that are still burning in people's mind. People who also want to contribute to this, so we'll provide the opportunity, thanks to Professor Falola, who has kindly agreed to do that with us. But one thing though, our participants, if we provide all of this opportunity and you are not part of us, it won't be worth, the value that we're trying to get from it. So I must appreciate you. We also want to request you to provide us with feedback on the way we run this program. If there are things you think we can do better, please don't hesitate to just send your messages to Dr. Arojolu or to any of the organizers, either through the Boiling Point platform or through any other of the other avenues that you can reach them through. We really will welcome your feedback, because that will make us improve on what we are doing and also to serve you and our country much better. Again, thank you very much, and let's continue the conversation. Thank you.
Let me thank His Royal Majesty Oba Saka, Atemilola, for using the throne and the palace in this dignified manner, the intellectualization of royalty. And I don't know that you are doing this. I know you do other things. As I mentioned, you went to Rutgers with Obasanjo. You may not know that I was following that initiative and the follow-up by Professor Bode, now the Director of African Studies at Rutgers. So with the use of this royal power in the academy, part of the suggestion that our host is talking about language will be possible. I have made a suggestion that we can also turn some palaces into educational centers and museums. They will not disturb the private parts of the palace. They will not. If the space is big, a palace can be a center of cultural studies. It can be a museum, like your wonderful crown. They won't even see you. The tourists won't see you. And these are some of the ideas. The late Alafin Ofoyo were on the verge of creating a museum in the compound. We've written the ideas. And with this intellectualization, it should be possible to insist on some of what I'm suggesting. The study of kingship to be part of the curriculum, because it's an embodiment of knowledge. It's extremely rich. But what are we doing with that knowledge? So that it should be possible every year for the universities in your area to bring you to campus. And the students just ask you questions and you answer them. So I'm really very grateful. And I'm happy that you are using your professorial experience to contribute to a major program like this. Kadipe Lorio, I'm looking at you as I'm talking, so I'm now the Shobaluji of Owu. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's the size of our package. That's the size of our package. We will continue, but at least on the radio, we want to say special thanks. Let me thank my professional twinnie, Dr. Oladende Ariyo.
I should be thanking you.
We can do this again.
I should be thanking you.
Thank you very much.
Incidentally, Baru Femi Shodunke that come from Canada, we happen to have grown up on the same street in Abeokuta. And I've not heard from him in a very long time.
That's a great
Thank you for the chance to have heard from him.
Thank you. I think we'll do it again. Let's thank everybody. Special appreciations to you. Thank you. Thank you. And God bless you. And then we can continue. Let's bring on Adegbenro Adebanjo. Let's continue via Zoom. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Adebanjo should be on now. Okay. Oh my God.
Do you want me to speak, Arojolu?
Yes, please speak. Okay. That would be that's the
Thank
voice
you.
of Commodore Kunle Olawumi. You can.
First of all, I just want to thank you for this wonderful program. I've been listening, and I've really benefits a lot. You brought in the